I never thought I would betray my husband. He was a powerful man, one of the most respected Muslim leaders in Equatorial Guinea. A man of deep faith and great influence, someone feared and honored in equal measure. To the outside world, our marriage was one of strength and dignity, a symbol of stability in the nation's religious and political landscape. But behind closed doors, I was merely a shadow, a woman bound by duty, not love. For years, I played the role of the perfect wife, standing silently beside him at official gatherings, lowering my gaze when addressed, and fulfilling my obligations with unwavering precision. But I was hollow inside. My husband saw me as an extension of his image, not as a woman with desires, dreams, or emotions. Then, I met Baltasa in Gonga. He was different. While my husband ruled through tradition and faith, Baltasa thrived in the world of power, wealth, and secrets. As the leader of the National Financial Investigation Agency, he was one of the most feared men in the country. He had the authority to unearth hidden corruption, expose the financial sins of the elite, and manipulate the flow of wealth in ways few could comprehend. I first encountered him at an economic summit in Malabo, a high-profile gathering meant to discuss the nation's financial policies. My husband had sent me in his place, too preoccupied with religious affairs to attend. At first, I merely observed from the sidelines, dressed in a modest yet elegant attire, my face concealed by a silk veil. Baltasa noticed me. Not just as a representative of my husband, but as a woman. His gaze lingered longer than necessary, his voice carrying a knowing undertone. When he finally approached me, his confidence was undeniable. "Your husband is a great man, but even great men underestimate what stands beside them." I should have been offended. Instead, his words ignited something inside me, a feeling long buried under years of obedience. We talked about politics, power, and control. Unlike the men in my husband's circles, Baltasa spoke to me as an equal, as someone whose opinions mattered. He was charming, intelligent, and dangerously persuasive. And then, it began. The beginning of the affair. Our first meeting outside official gatherings was unplanned, or so I told myself. A week after the summit, I found myself at the presidential palace attending a private event for the elite. Baltasa was there, dressed in a sharp suit, his presence commanding attention. The moment our eyes met, a silent understanding passed between us. Later that night, away from the watchful eyes of the political elite, he found me in the palace gardens. The air was thick with the scent of night-blooming jasmine, the dim glow of lanterns casting shadows across the marble pathways. "You are unlike the other women in this world," he murmured, stepping closer. "And yet, I am just like them," trapped, I whispered back. His fingers brushed against mine, the fleeting touch that sent a shiver down my spine. That was all it took. One touch, one stolen moment, and I was already lost. The secret encounters. Our affair blossomed in the hidden corners of the city. Luxurious private villas along the coast, discreet suites in the finest hotels, and the backrooms of exclusive clubs where no one dared question Baltasa's presence. He made me feel alive in a way I had never known. With him, I wasn't just a wife, I was a woman, a lover, a force of desire and passion. He whispered secrets of the nation's wealth into my ear as his hands traced my skin. I learned things that could shake the foundations of Equatorial Guinea's economy, things I should never have known. Yet, I didn't care. His power, his touch, his dominance over the world intoxicated me. "You could have anything you desire," he once told me, running his fingers along the curve of my neck. "I already have," I had whispered back. The danger of our love. But passion comes with a price. While my husband remained oblivious, the walls around us were not impenetrable. The whispers of our encounters started to grow, though never reaching his ears. Government officials, military generals, and financial elite, they all knew Baltasa was a dangerous man. And now I was tangled in his web. Yet I couldn't stop. As weeks turned into months, our affair became more than just stolen nights of passion. It became a game of power, a dance between secrecy and exposure. Baltasa started giving me more than just his touch, he gave me influence. Documents passed between us, revealing hidden financial transactions, offshore accounts, and corruption trails that led to the highest offices. He was grooming me, pulling me deeper into a world where money dictated power, where alliances were built on blackmail, and where love could be as much a weapon as it was a weakness. One day, your husband's power will not be enough to protect him, he told me once, his breath warm against my ear. And what will protect me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He smiled, dark and knowing. Me. The affair continues. With each passing night, the stakes grew higher. The thrill of secrecy, the rush of power, the forbidden love, it was a fire that refused to be extinguished. But even in the most carefully crafted deception, cracks can form. And in a world where betrayal is the ultimate sin, one misstep could cost everything. Baltasa was a patient man, he never forced, never demanded, but he had a way of planting thoughts in my mind, allowing them to grow until they felt like my own. At first, our affair was built on passion and secrecy. But as time passed, he wanted more. Not just my body, not just my loyalty, he wanted my soul. I was born into Islam, raised in the strict traditions that governed both my marriage and my role in society. My husband, one of the most powerful Muslim leaders in Equatorial Guinea, was unwavering in his faith. To him, a religion was power, and to the world, I was the devoted wife, bound by the laws of our faith, never questioning, never straying. But Baltasa, he was different. He was a man of control and not submission. He did not believe in bending to a higher power, he believed in becoming the power. His beliefs were not those of humility and prayer, but of influence, ambition, and taking what one desired. Your faith keeps you bound, he told me one night, as we lay in the dim glow of his private villa. It was given to you before you even knew who you were. Have you ever questioned it? I stiffened. Of course, I had never questioned it. To do so would be a sin, a betrayal of everything I had been taught. I do not question my faith, I said quietly. Baltasa smiled, brushing his fingers along my arm. That's because you've been told not to. But tell me, do you pray because you want to? Or because you must? I said nothing. His words lingered in my mind long after that night. Baltasa never openly challenged my beliefs. Instead, he chipped away at them, slowly, carefully, deliberately. At first, it was small things. He would invite me to luxurious private dinners, where the finest wines were served. My faith forbade me from drinking, and yet he never pressured me. He would sip from his glass, watching me with knowing eyes, waiting. You are free to choose, he would say. But how can you know freedom if you've never tasted choice? One night, I reached for the glass. That first sip burned my throat, but it was nothing compared to the fire that ignited inside me. Not from the wine, but from the act of defiance. From there, the boundaries blurred. I stopped fasting as strictly as I once had, telling myself it was necessary to keep up my strength for our meetings. My prayers became fewer, my veil was removed more often in his presence, and soon, I found myself questioning why I had followed these rules at all. Baltasa did not follow any religion in the way my husband did. His faith was different. Gods are not meant to be served, he told me one night, standing before the endless ocean. They are meant to be created. I watched him carefully. You speak as if you are one. His smile was dark. No, my love. But I know how to become one. He introduced me to his world, not a faith, but a belief system built on control, influence, and understanding the power of the unseen. Your people pray for guidance, he said. I do not ask. I take. I do not kneel. I stand. He took me to secret gatherings, hidden away from the eyes of my husband's world. Here, the powerful did not worship gods, they worshipped themselves. They studied ancient symbols, whispered words of power, and spoke of shaping destiny through will alone. It was not a religion, it was a philosophy. One that freed me from the chains of submission and replaced them with the intoxicating thrill of control. You were born into a cage, Baltasa murmured against my skin one night. I am giving you the key. My transformation was slow, invisible to those around me. To my husband, I was still the devoted wife. To my people, I was still the same woman they had always known. But inside, I was changing. Baltasa had not asked me to abandon my faith, he had done something far more dangerous. He had made me abandon it by choice. And once the mind is freed, it can never return to its chains. Baltasa had not forced me to abandon my faith, he had simply opened the door and let me walk through it myself. At first, it was exhilarating. The thrill of defying the rules I had lived by for so long, the taste of forbidden pleasures, and the intoxicating feeling of power for the first time in my life. I was not just a wife, not just a woman hidden behind veils and prayers, I was something more. But power comes with a price. And soon, I realized that stepping into Baltasa's world meant I could never truly step out. I became an actress in my own life. In my husband's home, I remained the dutiful wife, covering my hair, bowing my head, attending religious gatherings with quiet obedience. I still prayed when I was expected to, still followed the rituals, but my heart was no longer in them. I had seen another world, and my soul no longer belonged to my husband's faith. It belonged to something darker, something more dangerous. At night, I would escape into Baltasa's arms, where whispered words of ambition and destiny replaced the verses of the Quran I once recited. He taught me that prayer was nothing more than a plea for power, one that men sent into the sky, hoping for an answer. But we do not hope, he told me. We take. We do not beg. We command. The more I listened, the more I believed. And then the rituals began. Baltasa introduced me to a world hidden behind the curtain of politics and religion, a world where the elite did not worship gods, but themselves. It was not a religion. It was a system of control. The first time I attended one of their gatherings, I was nervous. It was held in a secret chamber beneath one of Malabou's most luxurious estates, a place where the powerful came together to discuss wealth, influence, and the shaping of the nation's future. There were no prayers here. No submission, no kneeling, no pleas for divine intervention. Instead, there were rituals of power, not of faith, but of manifestation. Tell me, my love, Baltasa whispered in my ear that night as I watched the scene unfold before me. What does your husband's faith offer you? Peace, I murmured, though I no longer knew if it was true. He laughed softly. Peace is an illusion for the weak. Power is the only truth. That night I took my first step into the unknown. Baltasa led me to a private chamber, away from the others. There, he traced symbols onto my bare skin, ancient markings that, he claimed, represented knowledge, transformation, and the destruction of old beliefs. This is not a religion, he told me. It is a choice. A commitment to yourself, to your own destiny. No God controls you. No man owns you. You are yours alone. I trembled beneath his touch, not from fear but from the sheer power of his words. And then he placed a golden ring on my finger. Your husband's ring binds you to him, he said. This binds you to yourself, to your true path. I did not resist. I did not hesitate. I let him mark me, let him strip away the last remnants of my past faith, let him turn me into something new. Something dangerous. As time passed, my transformation was nearly complete. I no longer flinched when I broke the rules I had once lived by. I no longer felt guilt when I slipped away in the dead of night to meet Baltasa. I no longer feared the consequences of my betrayal. But there was one final step, a test of loyalty that would seal my fate forever. Baltasa had been preparing me for this moment, though he had never spoken of it outright. He had given me knowledge, influence, power. But now, he needed proof. "Your husband still believes he owns you," he told me one evening, his voice smooth as silk. "But you and I both know that is no longer true. The final step is simple: prove it." I swallowed hard. I knew what he meant. "How?" I asked, though deep down, I already knew the answer. He smiled, slow and deliberate. "Bring me his secrets, his power, his weakness." My blood turned cold. This was not just an affair anymore. It was not just betrayal in the bedroom. This was a war. And I had to choose a side. The night Baltasa gave me the golden ring, I knew there was no turning back. I was no longer just the wife of a powerful Muslim leader. I was something else. Something more. And he wanted to show me just how much I had changed. The gift of freedom. One evening, he called for me in secret. His message was simple: "Come to me. There is something waiting for you." I arrived at his private villa, a place hidden from the eyes of the public, where only those he trusted could enter. The moment I stepped inside, I saw the gift laid out for me. On the bed, folded neatly, was a silk miniskirt shorter than anything I had ever worn. Beside it, a delicate lace bra, the kind that offered no real coverage, only the illusion of modesty. A pair of sleek heels completed the outfit. I stared at them, my breath catching in my throat. "Put them on." Baltasa's voice came from behind me, smooth and commanding. I turned to face him, my heart racing. He was testing me again. Another line to cross, another piece of my old self to leave behind. "I can't," I whispered. Not out of fear, but because the idea thrilled me in a way it shouldn't have. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "And yet, you will." There was no force, no threats, just the same unshakable confidence that had always drawn me to him. He knew what I wanted before I even admitted it to myself. And so, I obeyed. As I slipped into the new clothes, I saw myself in the mirror. I was unrecognizable. Gone was the woman draped in long robes, the obedient wife who moved through life unseen. In her place stood someone powerful. Someone dangerous. Someone who belonged to Baltasa's world now, not my husband's. When I turned to him, his eyes darkened with approval. He reached out, his fingers grazing my bare thigh, tracing slow, deliberate circles against my skin. "Do you feel it?" he murmured. "The freedom." I shivered, my body betraying the last remnants of hesitation. "Yes," I admitted. His touch was light at first, teasing, testing before his fingers pressed deeper, claiming me in ways words never could. That night, I let him erase the final traces of the woman I used to be. But it was never just about seduction. Baltasa was preparing me for something bigger. My transformation was not just for pleasure, it was for power. "Your husband keeps secrets," he said afterward, his fingers still lingering on my skin. "Secrets that keep him powerful. And you, my love, are the only one who can give them to me." I swallowed hard, the weight of his request sinking in. This was it. The moment of ultimate betrayal. I had already left behind my faith, my modesty, my loyalty. Now, he wanted me to destroy the man I once called my husband. I had crossed every line. From the moment I slipped into Baltasa's world, I knew I could never return to the woman I once was. I had abandoned my faith, my loyalty, and my fears. I had given myself to him completely, not just in body, but in spirit. But now, he wanted more. He wanted my husband's secrets. The mission. "Your husband is powerful," Baltasa told me one evening, his voice smooth as silk. But power is only as strong as the secrets that protect it. We were lying in his private suite, hidden away from prying eyes. His fingers traced slow circles on my skin, his breath warm against my neck. He had already taken everything from me: my obedience, my modesty, my soul. Now, he wanted the last thing I had left. "You are the only one who can get close to him," he continued. "The only one who can give me what I need." I swallowed hard. I knew what he meant. My husband was not just a religious leader, he was a man of influence, deeply connected to the political and financial elite of Equatorial Guinea. He controlled networks of wealth, power, and loyalty that even Baltasa couldn't penetrate. But I could. "What do you need?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Baltasa's lips curved into a knowing smile. "Everything." The next night, I returned to my husband's home, slipping back into my old role like a second skin. I dressed in modest robes, lowered my gaze, and played the part of the devoted wife. No one suspected a thing. But inside, I was a different woman. Late at night, while my husband slept, I moved silently through his private study. I had spent years watching him, knowing his routines, his habits, and most importantly where he kept his secrets. In the bottom drawer of his mahogany desk, locked away beneath layers of security, lay the documents Baltasa wanted. Financial records. Private dealings. Connections between the religious elite and the hidden forces that truly controlled the nation. I had never questioned my husband's power before. But now, as I skimmed through the papers, I understood he was not just a spiritual leader. He was a kingmaker. A man who controlled everything from the shadows. And I was about to bring him to his knees. 2 nights later, I met Baltasa in a secluded location deep within the city. The moment he saw the folder in my hands, his eyes darkened with satisfaction. "You've done well, my love," he murmured, brushing his fingers along my jaw. "With this, your husband's world will crumble." I shivered under his touch, not from fear but from the power I now held. I had betrayed the man who had once controlled my life. And it felt good. But betrayal is never without consequences. As the days passed, I began to sense a shift in my husband's demeanor. He was watching me closer, his eyes filled with suspicion. Had he discovered what I had done? Late one night, he called me into his study. "Sit," he said, his voice calm, too calm. My heart pounded as I obeyed and my mind racing. Did he know? Had Baltasa made his move already? Then, he spoke words that sent ice through my veins. "Tell me, wife, have you been keeping secrets from me?" I forced myself to stay calm. My husband's eyes were sharp, piercing through me like a blade. Did he know? Or was this just a test, a way to see if I would break? "Secrets, my love," I said softly, keeping my voice steady. "What do you mean?" He leaned back in his chair, his fingers drumming against the wooden desk. The same desk where I had stolen the documents for Baltasa. "I have always trusted you," he said. "But trust is a fragile thing. And lately, I have begun to wonder if mine has been misplaced." I felt my breath catch. He knew something. "Have I given you a reason to doubt me?" I asked, tilting my head just enough to feign innocence. He studied me, his expression unreadable. Then, without a word, he reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a small recording device. My blood ran cold. "I installed this weeks ago," he said, pressing play. The room filled with whispers. My whispers. The sound of my voice speaking to Baltasa. The rustling of papers. The exchange of secrets. I felt my world collapsing. "You were my wife," he said, his voice dangerously low. "And you sold me to my enemy." I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. What excuse could I give? What lie could save me now? He stood slowly, his presence towering over me. Did you think he loved you? He asked. Did you think Baltasa wanted you for anything more than what you could give him? I swallowed hard. Because deep down, I had wondered the same thing. Had I been a pawn all along? Tell me, wife, he said, stepping closer. What did he promise you? Freedom. Power. A life where I was more than just a man's possession. But now, as I sat trapped under my husband's gaze, I realized Baltasa had used me. And now, I would pay the price. I sat frozen, my breath shallow, as my husband's words echoed in my mind. Did you think he loved you? Baltasa had promised me power, freedom, a new life beyond the shadows of my marriage. But had it all been a lie? I forced myself to meet my husband's gaze. He was calm, too calm. That terrified me more than if he had screamed or struck me. He was planning something. What happens now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He studied me, as if deciding whether I was still worth something to him. Then, he walked to the door and opened it. Two men stepped inside. His men. You betrayed me, he said simply. So now, I will show you what true betrayal looks like. My heart pounded. I had underestimated him. I had played a game with men far more dangerous than I realized. Take her, he ordered. The men moved toward me. I had seconds to react. And then the gunshot rang out. One of the men collapsed, blood spilling onto the floor. The other turned in shock, just as Baltasa himself stepped into the room, a gun in his hand. That, he said smoothly, is no way to treat my woman. Everything happened in a blur. Baltasa's men stormed in, overpowering my husband's guards. My husband, as still eerily calm, looked at me one last time before he was forced to his knees. So this was the plan all along, he said, more amused than angry. Baltasa smiled. Did you really think I would let her remain yours? I watched, my pulse racing, as my husband looked at me one last time. You were never meant to win this game, he said softly. You were only ever a piece on the board. And in that moment realized the truth. Baltasa had not come for me. He had come for him. This had never been about love. It had never been about freeing me. I had been a weapon used to bring down my own husband. And now, I had nothing left.